Hey folks, this is Steel Table Talk and I'm Kavya. This is the 8th video in the ICSE Drama series covering the third part of Act 1, Scene 2 of The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare. This video contains everything from the broadest concepts to the minutest details that you require to write the perfect answers. So keep watching and stay tuned for more. Before we proceed, here's a background of events so far. Portia and Nerissa discuss the aspects of Portia's husband being chosen by a lottery of caskets devised by her father, and her will being curbed by that of her father. Then they go on to talk about Portia's thoughts on the various suitors who had arrived to woo her. We're done with all the 6 suitors, and now we'll see what follows. And with that, let's begin. After Portia tells Nerissa how she plans on avoiding the German man from choosing the right casket and thus winning her in marriage, Nerissa says, "You need not fear, lady, the having any of these lords. They have acquainted me with their determinations, which is indeed to return to their home and to trouble you with no more suit, unless you may be won by some other sort than your father's imposition, depending on the caskets." Nerissa puts to rest Portia's fears. She says, "Calm down, Portia," by giving her the news that the said lords, the said 6 suitors, have all informed her of their decisions about their proposals. That is, unless there is an alternative method to win Portia in marriage, other than the lottery of casket that is devised by her father, they would no longer trouble her with the proposal of marriage. They would withdraw their suit and go back to their respective homes. Portia says, "If I live to be as old as Sibylla, I will die as chaste as Diana, unless I be obtained by the manner of my father's will." She here is playing the part of a faithful daughter, a loyal and loving daughter. She says that even if she has to live as long as Sibylla, historical reference we'll explain later, she would choose to remain a maiden, unmarried girl like Diana, unless she is earned by one of her suitors through the method of lottery of caskets as devised by her father. I am glad this parcel of wooers are so reasonable, for there is not one among them but I dote on his very absence, and I pray God grant them a fair departure. She was glad that the current group of visitors was reasonable enough not to make a choice, because there are 2 conditions also involved in this lottery of caskets. That will come later. As there is not one among them, but she wishes all of them to be gone. There is not one among them who she does not wish to be gone. She prays to God to grant them a safe journey back to their respective homes. Now, historical references. 2 are here, Sibylla and Diana. Sibylla. Sibyl was an ancient prophetess of the Roman mythology. Now, all these were basically oracles, prophetess who worshipped Apollo. Apollo is connected in mythology to prophecies, that is viewing of the future. Now, this particular prophetess, Sibyl, is one of the main and most famous of these oracles, who was granted longevity by Apollo in return for her service. She had taken a handful of sand and asked to live for as many years as the grains of sand she held. Now, actually, Apollo says that I am impressed by your service and I would grant you whatever wish you want. So, Sibyl takes up a handful of sand and says that as many grains are there in my hand, I wish to live as many years of life. Here she is, so Apollo grants that wish, of course. Here she is symbolic of the traditional old woman. Portia says that even if she lived a life as long as Sibyl, which is obviously an exaggeration because nobody will live that long, she would uphold her father's will and be married only under those conditions. Fun fact, this Sibyl person then made a major mistake. Again, loophole in asking the wish. She asked Apollo for long life. No. Apollo then, okay, fine. I might as well say it. So Apollo asks Sibyl to marry him, and Sibyl refuses. Then Apollo says that, okay, fine. Now you forgot to ask for an able or supple body, or you forgot to ask for youth. So you will age as a normal person does. So by the end of her life, she shriveled and was stored up in a box, in a jar, which is gross. I'm having second thoughts of having said that. Anyways, moving on to Diana, way better story. The Roman goddess of hunt and the moon. She was the twin to Apollo, and her Greek counterpart is Artemis. Those who have read Percy Jackson books would know very well. So she was a maiden goddess, the symbol of chastity in mythology. Portia states that if a suitor does not earn her by the method devised by her father, then she would never marry and remain a maiden like Diana, both used for emphasis on her loyalty towards her father and his wishes. Nerissa says, do you not remember, lady, in your father's time, a Venetian, a scholar and a soldier, that came here in the in the company of the Marquis of Montferrat. Marquis of Montferrat is basically a term used to denote an Italian nobleman. So Nerissa asks Portia if she remembered the Venetian scholar and soldier who had come to Belmont with the Marquis of Montferrat while her father was arrived. Now here is major irony. Scholar and a soldier, as Bassanio is neither of these. Bassanio is just a broke man. Then Portia says, yes, it was Bassanio, as I think. He was so called. So obviously she's trying and failing not to be too interested. Nerissa says, true, madam, he of all the men that ever my foolish eyes looked upon, humility was the best deserving a fair lady. Means you. Portia says, I remember him well, and I remember him worthy of your praise. Enter a serving man, basically a servant. How now, what news? Servant says, the 4 strangers seek for you, madam, to take their leave. And there is a forerunner come from a 5th, the Prince of Morocco, who brings word the prince his master will be here tonight. The servant tells Portia that 4 of her suitors sought to take leave of her, and a messenger had come from a 5th, the Prince of Morocco, to inform that his master, the prince, would be there before nightfall. Now, 4 of her suitors, this is either a mistake, means Shakespeare forgot that there were 6 suitors and wrote 4, or only 4 of them were leaving at that moment. This is option 2. And third option is 2 of these suitors, the Scottish man and the German man, were only added to alleviate the comedy. So Portia does not even count them, which is quite strange because she just counted them. Anyways, Portia says, if I could bid the 5th welcome with so good a heart as I can bid the other 4 farewell, I should be glad of his approach. Portia says that if she could welcome the 5th suitor with the same joy as she could bid farewell to the other 4 who are departing, she would be glad of his arrival. But it is not so. If he have the condition of a saint and the complexion of a devil, I had rather he should shrive me than wive me. So she says, if this approaching suitor had the virtues of a holy man, a saint, but the face of a devil, means he is not handsome, she would prefer to confess her sins and ask for forgiveness than marry him. Come, Nerissa, Sirrah, go before. Whilst we shut the gates upon one wooer, another knocks at the door. She asks the servant to lead the way, saying, as they bid farewell to one suitor, another is already knocking on their door. Shrive means to hear confessions or sins and grant forgiveness, like a holy man or saint. Now, this irony, there is a major irony here, and complexion of a devil, because the very first line when Prince of Morocco arrives will be opposite to this. Then do not misjudge me for my complexion, because he is dark actually. So the part about complexion here is ionic. Anyways, with this we come to the end of Act 1, Scene 2. And as said, as promised, I will be compiling the traits of all these 6 suitors, and the file will be attached in the description box, so you can check that out. Okay. And that's it for one sitting. The next parts will be covered in the upcoming videos. Drop a like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications to stay informed of the next video, which will be up shortly. Stay strong, stay safe, keep faith. See ya.